Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are doing the 41st sloka. Let's chant. Jiva petam va vikila, Jiva petam va vikila, Seiram riyatena saha, Seriram riyatena saha, Ichyatra na vimokshaha, Ichyatra na vimokshaha, Artha kim tu lokantare gatihi, Artha kim tu lokantare gatihi. Together. Jiva petam va vikila, Seriram riyatena saha, Ichyatra na vimokshortaha, Kintu lokantare gatihi. So here we are talking about the Jiva's immortality that was discussed in the first few slokas of Gita also, where Arjuna Vishada Yoga, where he thinks that the Bhishma and Dronacharya and all other people are going to be no more once they get killed. And Krishna starts with the statement, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva nabhavishyamaha sarve vayam atah param. So you are unnecessarily crying where there is no reason for you to cry. So therefore, says the gata sunagatasum cha nanu sochanti panditaha. Panditaha, the wise people, will not cry because for those who are going or who have gone. Everybody is going only. So it's not the destruction of the body, is not the destruction of the soul. So Krishna emphasizes that there was never a time I was not there, never a time you were not there, never a time all these things that you are seeing and you think they are going to be killed and they will not be anymore. They are always there in the present, in the future also. So therefore, there is no reason for you to cry. And that's what the Krishna's message initially, to cool down Arjuna. And in the process he mentioned that this Jiva is eternal and the changing in the Jiva, death is nothing but Dehinosmin yada dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara yada dehantada praptihi. The dehandram, even going, death is nothing but change of state. Change of state from Kaumaram Yavvanam Jara, from the childhood to the youth to the old age, the body, mind and intellect, but he doesn't change. He leaves the body and goes in search of another body. Therefore he is eternal. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So hanyamane, when the body is killed, he doesn't get killed, because he is eternal. So is that eternity is a moksha? Says that's not moksha, that's only traveling from one samsara to other samsara. So going from samsarati means samyak sarati. He continuously moving not only in this life or in this loka, but he goes to loka, depending upon where his next set of vasanas drive. If there is a punya vasanas that he has to enjoy, he goes to punya loka, because those lokas are convenient for exhausting those particular punya vasanas. So he gets appropriate body, a deva body or God's bodies, or Gandharvas and then Devas and Devas, higher Devas and so on. He will be getting different bodies depending upon the nature of the vasanas. In the Kathopanishad, Yamadharmaraja, as he was teaching the Nachiketas, he tells, when I was a seeker, I was not looking for liberation, I was looking for a higher post. So implying that even Yama post is also a post that a jiva occupies depending upon his punyam. And his life is different from his life of a in the bhuloka or in the karma bhumi, because even Brahmaji's one day is itself is many yugas itself, because when he goes to sleep after the day of working tire, it's called the pralayam. When we go to sleep, it's called layam. When Brahmaji goes to sleep, it's called pralayam. And then when he gets up, he starts the creation again all over. And that so many yugas constitutes one day of the Brahmaji. So only time span is different, the space is different where he occupies. It's a subtler world, Satyalokam, where Brahmaji resides. So traveling in these lokas is not a moksha, because he is still traveling, and that's called samsara. Punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, jatare shayanam, yah samsare, bahudustare, krupaya pare, pahi murare. Shankaracharya writes in the Bhajagovindam, says this samsara is not this only. In life after life after life, in different lokas have been going around, and that's what it says. Jivaha apetaha is rejecting sariram bhava. He certainly rejects this body and goes to different. We call it, he is dead and gone. Mar gaya. Mar gaya means he has gone somewhere. He has left this body and gone somewhere, because this body is no more conducive for exhausting the next set of vasanas. All other people cry, he has gone. So we are attached to the body and with the life in the body, and as long as the life is there, everybody asks, how are you, and all that. But once the life gone, even bharya bibyati tasmin kaye. So even the wife doesn't like the dead body there, we get rid of immediately, because body is not the individual. And the jiva has left, and leaving that jiva, rejecting the body, is not moksha. Saha jivaha, not. Iti atra, in the scholarly scripture, in the scriptures is told, it's not a moksha, vimoksha. Vimoksha artha na kintu lokantare gatihi. He has gone to different lokas. So what happens, what is moksha is going to be defined here. So going from one loka to other loka is not a moksha. So in other religions, you go to heaven, and for them heaven is eternal heaven or eternal hell. You go one way or the other. So for them, there is no life before. Or say, what were you before your birth? They say there is no life before, because this is the first life. But you have an infinite life in the other end. If you don't accept their religion, then you go to the heaven or hell. So one, this may be a deviation. One professor, a thermodynamic professor, asked the students, prove that whether hell is an exothermic system or endothermic system. This is a question posed. I don't know whether real or not. But exothermic means heat is generated. Endothermic means heat is absorbed. That's a definition in thermodynamics. When the heat is generated, like when something burns, heat is coming out. That's an exothermic reaction. So when oxygen burns, it creates when hydrogen burns, it creates a heat. And that heat is therefore burning of hydrogen converting into water by using oxygen is called the burning of hydrogen, and creates a very high heat. And that's extremely exothermic reaction. Endothermic reaction is heating getting absorbed. That's when you heat the water, it is absorbing the heat until it gets boiling, then it reaches a saturation point. Anyway, this question was posed. Prove that the hell is a exothermic or endothermic properly. So one fellow wrote his answer, it has to be an exothermic system. Means heat is always generated in the hell. Why? Because his logic is this. Says, according to any religion, if you don't follow that religion, you go to hell. That's what it says. Only those people go to heaven if you follow that religion. All others go to hell. So from that religion point, everybody is going to hell. From the other religion point, these people are also going to hell because they don't believe that religion. So by process of mutual exclusion, everybody is heading only to hell. And there are a lot of generation people are the life of every cycle, there are more and more people, and everybody is dying one way or other, and everybody is heading to hell only. And hell is limited because there is a heaven and earth, and therefore by process of mutual exclusion again, hell is also limited. So in the limited thing, people are getting packed there because there is no place now. So when you keep forcing people into that, the system gets heated up. So it has to be exothermic reaction. I don't know whether he got A grade or not, but that's our hells are not eternal. Our heaven is also eternal. Chine punye martulokam nishanti. So even when your credit card, when the punyam credit is there, you go to heavens. Higher there we have higher depending upon the hierarchy of your punyam. With a very great punyam, go all the way. If it is just miss, you go little bit. And there are 7 lokas up and 7 lokas down. Total 14 lokas we have. So in that case, you are there as long as the vasanas, the punya vasanas are there, you are kept there. Once it is over, you don't like to leave, but you will be pushed out. Just like if people don't want to leave this, but at the same time, you are kicked out. Yamadharmaraja, the Yama is nothing but time. Kala is Yama. So when the time is over, the time is over means your vasanas are over. You have to look for, you will be looking for different lokas. That's what is so our heavens and all are only transient stages, going for a picnic or something and coming back. So how does he get immortality then? So in the next sloka we read, that's 42. Naham brahmeti buddheta saha, naham brahmeti buddheta saha vinasiti chennatad, saha vinasiti chennatad, samanadikaranyasya bhadayamapi sambhavat. Together, naham brahmeti buddheta saha vinasiti chinnatat samanadikaranyasya bhadayamapi sambhavat. So question is, what is moksha? So moksha is being defined is something you need to understand, because it's not a apraptasya praptam. It's not gaining something that you don't have it. So it's not going somewhere or getting something or being given something because you don't have it, now you will have it. That kind of moksha is only a thing that doesn't belong to you and you are getting it. And that's what is called a apraptasya praptam. Not having it, now you are going to have it. By if you do this process or that process, you are going to heaven or you are going to the liberation, moksha. But moksha is being defined is that which is desha kala vastu aparichinnam. That means it is not limited by space, desha, kala, time, and desha kala vastu object wise, it's not limited. So any limitations with the space wise, time wise and object wise cannot be moksha, because I am limited, spatially limited, time wise is limited, and object wise limited. What is space wise limited? I am here, I am not there. Therefore, I am spatially limited. I wish I am all over there also. I can be enjoying somewhere at the same time sleeping here or doing something else. I cannot. I am going to be either in this school or in the school or in here or there. So I cannot be everywhere. So I can only be at one place wherever the body is. That's called desha parichinnam. Kala parichinnam is time wise, says I want to be, I cannot be here and somewhere else also, and at the same time or at different times also I cannot, because I am limited by time. And everybody complains that they don't have enough time. I am limited means I cannot do so many things because my time is limited. So time is, according to all, this is the 24 hours and 7 days, and goes on. So after that, what happens? Same thing again. Is I have so many things that do, I cannot really do. So people suffer because there's too much to do and they don't have enough time. That's why in the management, you have to manage your time. So time management is a seminar that people give particularly for the higher ups, because they have to split their time in such a way that they can be efficient and not do too many things, commit themselves to many things. Overcommitment is also a big samsara. So therefore, the time management is essentially required because I am limited by time. And space-wise limited, time-wise limited, object-wise limited, because I am different from this, so many things, because I am limited by so many. The whole world is so big compared to me. I am only tiny guy, and the whole world is pouncing on me. So therefore, I am vastu parichinnam. I am not you, and you are not me, and he is not, and so forth. Everybody wants the same thing, and we are struggling hard. So that's called Desha, Kala, Vastu, Parichinnam. Parichinnam means limitations. And moksha, so in samsara comes because of these limitations. I don't like the limitations. I try to solve the limitations by effort, but effort is a finite, and finite can only give you a finite result. So it still be limited by Desha, Kala, Vastu, Parichinnam. So what should be the moksha? So everybody's promise in terms of moksha is either go somewhere where you will be time-wise not limited, because eternal. Eternal means time-wise not limited. So eternal heaven and eternal hell. So eternal heaven, Vaikuntha is eternal heaven for Vaishnavas. You go to Vaikuntha or you go to Kailasa, where what do you do? That time-wise you are gone, because by proclamation that you will be there eternally. So how you are going to be there eternally is not questioned, because that is by axiomatic statement. That is so. Therefore you are going to be in heaven, and Lord Narayana will be there. So what happens there? So even if you say that time-wise is the aparichinnam, it's not limited, because yadgatvana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Once you come there, you don't go back. That's what they promise. So therefore, once you reach this place, then you don't return back. And once you reach there, what happens? Even though there is a time that is not limited, but you are limited by space-wise and object-wise. Space-wise means you are Vaikuntha, not here. So therefore, Vaikuntha is different from here. So therefore, it is a space-wise limited. And time-wise and object-wise, not only you, there are so many other people also there along with you. Remember, you thought you only make it, but you find out that your neighbor is also there. Then you start worrying. I say, this fellow doesn't deserve to be there, and how come he also ended up in Vaikuntha? Then you start wondering, I could have also done a lot of things and still made it. Because once you reach there, you don't return back. Remember? So all the worries starts coming about, your regrets about not doing things here, because you're already in Vaikuntha, thinking that you cannot do all this to go to Vaikuntha. But therefore there is a Vastu Parichinnam. But Vastu Parichinnam is not your limitations, and you will be near the Lord. And even though all jivas are there, remember there are hierarchy of jivas there in Vaikuntha also. Lakshmi is very close to Narayana compared to other jivas. And there are Vishwaksena, Garuda, all those things are there. You have to sit long way behind, all the way back to make sure you will be able to see the Lord. But it's only picturizing. But the point is, even that is not a moksha, because moksha is defined as that not to be gain something, because once you gain, you can lose also, and whatever you gain is limited because you didn't have it and you have it. That itself is a limitation. So moksha has to be is a praptasya praptam. It's gaining what you already have, because you already have, then you don't need to gain, but you don't know that you have. Therefore, what is moksha is that you are in fact is desha kala vastu aparichinnaha. You are not, nature is not limited by space wise, time wise, object wise. That can only be true only when you are Brahman. Brahman is infinite, is not limited by time, space or object, because there is no other object other than Brahman. So therefore, that aham brahma iti, understanding that I am Brahman, is the only methodology for moksha. Moksha means you are already liberated, but you don't know that you are liberated and you are looking for liberation. So how do you solve the problem? Recognize that you are already liberated. Nitya mukta swarupoham. I am already eternally liberated. Only thing is I don't know. So here he is going to say, Naham brahmeti buddheta saha. So in the jiva, how can, when the jiva is gone, how can recognize that I am a Brahman? A limited jiva cannot recognize that aham brahmasmi. Na aham brahma iti na buddheta saha. One cannot say I am Brahman being a limited. It's like saying that I am a millionaire even though I don't have a penny. So I may think that I am a millionaire, you call it I am a dreaming only. So it cannot be possible. Naham brahmeti buddheta saha vinasiti chenna tat. And when this jiva gets destroyed, how can the one who is destructible jiva, that which is going from one, if the life is gone, then how can he attain the moksha? Vinasiti chet na tat. That's not really true. So here negation of that. So how is it possible? It says samanadi karanyasya bhadayam api sambhava. So it's possible to apply samanadi karana and the bhadayam by negating that which doesn't belong to you, negating your notion that I am a jiva and claiming that I am brahmasmi. How do you do it? Because that's a fact. So through the buddhi, using the buddhi only, I had to claim that aham brahmasmi and not aham jivosmi. So aham jivaha is a notion, aham brahma is the truth. So what is this? Here aham, I am, jivaha, I am a jiva. So I am part and jiva part. So what I am rejecting? This badhayam. Badha means rejection of jivaha, notion. Jivaha is only I am, this is a notion. Jivaha means I am this. I am is a conscious entity, existent entity. This is an inert entity. So in the very equation tells you it is an invalid equation. But invalid equation has become validated because of the way, due to ajnana, due to ignorance, I am validating an invalid equation. Invalid equation is I am this. So all ego is nothing but my biodata is I am this. All this is a inert. I am a subject and this is an object. A subject cannot be object, and therefore the very fact that I am this is ahankara is an invalid equation. So invalid equation can be rejected by knowing the valid equation. Valid equation is I am is pure consciousness and existence. So I am and Sat and Chit, and the Upanishad says Sat is infinite and Chit is infinite. So they are not infinite, two infinities. It is Sattayeva Chit, Chittayaham. I am, that is from the Upadesasara by Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. So Sattayeva Chit, Chittayaham. So I am that pure existent consciousness that I am, and that has to be, is immortal because that is a Brahman. So I am this. This part is replaced by Brahman. I am Brahman. Brahman means infinite. So there is no more longing mind and a wanting mind because I am already infinite. There is nothing for me I need. Therefore, Krishna says that Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmani eva atmana tushtaha. I am reveling in myself because myself that I revel is infinite. So how do I get this? I say samanadhikaranam karanasya badhayam api sambhavat. By using samanadhikarana and by rejecting what doesn't belong to, so badhayam api sambhavat, it's possible. So what is samanadhikarana? What is badhaya? So this is going to be discussed further in terms of how the Tattvamasi statement is being explained. The Vedantic statement is being explained by using a badhayam samanadhikaranam. So we'll go into that details as the Vidyaranya talks about it. That we'll discuss as we go along. We'll do 43 now. Yoyam sthanuhu pramaneshu, yoyam sthanuhu pramaneshu, pumdhiya sthanu dhiriva, pumdhiya sthanu dhiriva, brahmasmiti dhiya sesha, brahmasmiti dhiya sesha. Let's see what he says. Okay, brahmasmiti dhiya sesha, apyaham buddhi nivartyate, apyaham buddhi nivartyate. Together, yoyam sthanuhu pramaneshu, pumdhiya sthanu dhiriva, brahmasmiti dhiya sesha, apyaham buddhi nivartyate. So here he giving an example of badhayam. By being clear, understanding it, I am rejecting something, and it's not a physical rejection, it is cognitively I have to reject what I think I am as I am and take what I am as I am. So right now I am taking what I am not as I am, and therefore I had to take what I am as I am and reject what I am not as I am, because I am not that. So I am not that has to be rejected, and I am this has to be claimed. And what is this and what is that? He gives an example of what's called badhayam. Badha means rejection and claiming what is the real part. So in the two things, there is a real part and unreal part. I am this. If I am this is our current understanding. So real part is I am, because it doesn't change. Every time I am cannot change. Even when I change, say I am changing. I am is there. Changing part is something else. So I am is always there, changeless part, and this is changing because I keep changing my biodata all the time. Depending upon the job that I am applying, I repolish and put something else that is required for that job. That's what we all do, right? So therefore this part is changing and this part is not changing. So changing part is because of I am claiming something what I am not as this. And how do I stop this? That's called by reject what I am not and claim what I am. That's what his whole Vedanta is. That's what he here says. Yoyam sthanuhu pramaneshu pumdhiya sthanu dhiravad. So when in the semi-dark room, in the semi-dark place, I was walking and suddenly I saw a man standing there. A man standing there. So, hey, there is somebody waiting for me, or somebody, maybe a thief is there, is standing there. So because the light is not completely clear, but I see something standing and is bending, and maybe he is ready to hit me or something. He is there waiting for me as though I am coming there. So a fear and all that, because I am projecting a person there. But as I come closer and closer, I see, because of the means of knowledge is improved. So pramana means of knowledge has improved, because before that pramana is not giving me complete attributes of the object that I am seeing. So based on some similarities, I say it is a person standing there. And now as I go closer and closer, I realize now it is nothing but a sthanu, a pillar standing there. Maybe a lamp or light lamp, or not light lamp is standing there. So yoyam sthanuhum, this is called post. So, yaha ayam sthano, this is a post. Pramaneshu, by having clear understanding or clear knowledge of the object. Pramana is means of knowledge. With the proper means of knowledge, that this is a post. Pum dhiya sthanu dhiriva. So pum dhiya, so notion that this is a person. Before that I thought this is a person. Now sthanuhu dhi, it's not a person but it is a post. That knowledge came by what? Through the proper means of knowledge. Now I know better, or I can see better. Seeing is a means of knowledge. Seeing better because of the surrounding environments and my senses, all that are parikarana. They are called the pramanas operating, giving me clear picture of what it is. So what it is the knowledge. That's called prama. Prama is the knowledge of what it is. Brahma means what is not there but appear to be there in my mind because of either the conditions are not conducive, or my senses are not defective, or my mind is clouded. Any of these reasons, I am not getting the complete attributive content of the object for me to make a clear decision of this is so. So yaha ayam sthano, this is a post. How did I get? Because I have seen the post before and I know what is the post look like. Now I am getting attributes of the post of this post. Then by cognition and recognition I can say this is a post. Before that I thought it is a ghost or a person because I was not getting complete attributes of the object because it's semi-dark, or that because of some other reason my mind is clouded or afraid of something. The fear makes the vision unclear. Because I am afraid of ghosts, therefore I am afraid to walk alone and I am forced to walk alone. Then suddenly I see, because of fear, all sorts of things also. So therefore, that to see clearly, this is an important statement here, to see clearly I need a proper pramana, proper means of knowledge. Yoyam sthanuhu pramaneshu pum dhiya sthanu dhireva. Brahmasmi iti dhiya aseshaha. Brahma asmi iti dhiya. By the intellect I can know that I am Brahman. Iti asesha, fully. Api aham buddhihi nivartyate. So in that dhiya, by the intellect, nivartyate, it can be fully established, clearly established in the buddhi, provided I have pramaneshu. I have appropriate pramana to know that aham brahmasmi, I am the Brahman. Prama means knowledge that gives you correct, clear knowledge of what it is. Prama is knowledge, and that gives you the knowledge is Nama is validated. Actually, Prama means validated knowledge. Brahma means that I think is Prama, which is not Prama. So how do I know it's not a Prama? Just as the example is the rope snake or mirage waters. So rope snake is one kind of Prama, one kind of adhyasa. Mirage water is other kind of adhyasa. One is called the Nirupadi, another called Sopadi Adhyasa. So Nirupadi, you have to be, these are classifications of superimpositions. So in the case of rope snake, what is there is a rope, but because of the semi-darkness and it's 5 feet and it's on the way, and people say there are a lot of snakes here, so already a mental notion and a fear is there. And when I am walking, I stepped on it something and it was soft and 5 feet long, it is lying on the road, so therefore I thought it is a snake. So that's called Brahma, because I take it is a snake and then I react for that and I run away and all those things also. And therefore blood pressure went up, all other things also goes up. So other secondary reactions are the physical, and the Brahman, the snake notion is in the mind, but the mind can cause other problems. So the ignorance of an object can can project something other than what it is, and that consequence of that is what samsara is. So that called Brahma. If I have a proper means of knowledge, somebody told it's not a snake, it is a rope only. So how come it's a rope? How come I saw a snake? That's also a question. Let's go and inquire. So inquiry comes only when there is a doubt. If there is no doubt, I am sure it is a snake, I will tell everybody not to go there, and I will never go there, even if you convince me otherwise also. You can't convince me otherwise, because I am sure it is a snake only. So for I can live whole life thinking that it is a snake. It may not be snake. So Brahma has become a Prama for me. For you it is I am a foolish fellow, I am not really knowing what it is. So you may know Prama, I am only taking Brahma as Prama. So for me to know that it is a Brahma, I have to see through my eyes it is a rope and not a snake. I cannot just sit down and say it is a snake, it is a rope, it is a rope. It's not by meditation, or it's not by any action. It is clearly seeing what it is. A pramana is required for revealing the knowledge. Same way, I am a jiva, according to is a notion. Jiva means I am a limited, because I am taking the limitations of the body, mind, intellect as my limitations, because I don't know who I am. So therefore, to inquire who I am, I need a proper means of knowledge, pramana. So inquire means I need to investigate, but investigate requires a means of knowledge, and the means of knowledge is essentially Vedanta provides the pramana. So Brahmasmiti, so pramaneshu, by proper pramana, so dhiya asesha api aham brahma aham buddhihi is nivarchati. Aham buddhi, I am a jiva, I am this body, mind, intellect. Aham buddhi is negated by having aham brahmasmi. So badhayam, rejection of I am this, starting from a buddhi and claiming that I am Brahman, is all Vedanta is. Therefore there is a badhayam, by rejection of what I am not and claiming what I am is involved in the samanadikarana badhayam, or badhayam samanadikaranam, and that's what is going to be discussed more. We will get into the samanadikarana a little bit. 44. Naishkarmya siddha vapyevam Naishkarmya siddha vapyevam Acharyai spashtameritam Acharyaihi spashtameritam Samadhikaranyasya Badartha Samadhikaranyasya Badarthatvam Samadhikaranyasya Badarthatvam Matostu tat. So Samanadikaranyasya Badartatvam Matostu tatu. Together, Naishkarmya siddha vapyevam Acharyai spashtameritam Samadhikaranyasya Badartatvam Matostu tatu. So evam, in this way, Acharyaihi, Acharya is Sureshwara Acharya here. So by Sureshwara, Naishkarmya siddha, that is a text written by Sri Sureshwara Naishkarmya Siddhi, and in that api samanadikaranyasya badartatvam. So the samanadikarana with badharta, with the rejection of the virodhi attributes of the contradictory attributes are rejected, and claiming what is common, and it's called samanadikarana, badhayam samanadikarana, that we will go into details now. Samanadikaranyasya badarthatvam, the badarthatvam, by application of the samanadikarana, badhayam samanadikaranam, by using that, he made it spashtam, clearly. Iritam is discussed. What is that? Ataha tat, and this identity of Tattvamasi has been discussed clearly, and this is being applied. So badhayam samanadikaranam is a means, a technical word, is a means to recognize that aham brahmasmi are not aham jivosmi. Right now I have a notion that aham jivosmi, I am a jiva, I am a jiva. I am part says same Jiva part goes away. There is I am, the Jiva part is replaced by Brahmasmi. So Aham Jivosmi is replaced by Aham Brahmosmi. So rejection of Jivosmi, that means Vadayam, and claiming that Brahmosmi is Samanadikaranam, that is involved, and that is where the knowledge of claiming Aham Brahmasmi. What is Samanadikaranam? How you apply this? And this has been discussed exhaustively in the previous chapters. We just tentatively go, and this is exactly what Krishna makes a statement: Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnyam Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahmakarma samadhina. So that we chant before taking food, but the explanation involves Samanadhikarana, and there are different types of Samanadhikarana in the literature, and even Ramanuja uses Samanadhikarana but in a different way, and Advaita uses Samanadhikarana in a different way. We'll just go into that little bit just to make sure that we understand exactly what Vidyaranya is talking about. With this we stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.